Welcome to 5 Minutes Alone with God. Today we are in a very, very serious passage in the Gospel of Mark, in chapter 9, starting in verse 42. Follow along as we read. But whoever causes one of these little ones to believe in me and to stumble, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea. And if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter into life maimed rather than having two hands to go into hell and into a fire that will never be quenched, where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. And if your foot causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life lame rather than having 2 feet to be cast into hell, into fire that shall never be quenched, where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with one eye rather than having 2 eyes and to be cast into hell, where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. For everyone will be seasoned with fire, and every sacrifice will be seasoned with salt. Salt is good, but if the salt loses its flavor, how will you season it? Have salt in yourselves and have peace with one another. What is Jesus talking about here? There is a big contrast between sin and life here. And the extremity of sin is so severe, it requires sometimes a severe action to take place. Jesus is not calling for us to cut off our hands or our feet or to pluck out our eyes. But the remedy for sin requires something drastic. It requires a life, his life, to be given. And he points out that if someone causes another person to sin, the result would be, it'd be better for that person to have a millstone, meaning an anchor, tied around their neck and thrown into the sea where they would die, than to cause a little one, a child, a follower of Jesus, to turn away from him. It's pretty severe. And he also points out this idea that if your hand or your leg or your eye or something to that effect, some part of your body was constantly causing you temptation, you would be better off without that and to enter into heaven without that body part than to continue a life in sin. That's what Jesus is pointing out there. So how do we apply this? Well, one of the things, if sin is so severe and so bad, what do we need to change in our life to remove ourselves from it? If there are things that we are watching, what do we need to change to stop that? It's easy to say, I'm just going to stop sinning. But we all know that there is a pull, like a magnet, pulling us back to sin. What we need to do is we need to alter, we need to change. Sometimes we need to do drastic surgery of removing something from our life, because the consequences of sin are so severe. Jesus is warning us and telling us, take what you need to do and make that change. So that's an application. Perhaps you have a different application. But remember, don't miss the point, how serious sin is in our life. That's our time together. See you tomorrow. Mark chapter 10, verses 1 through 16.